Welcome to another episode of the CarryTrainer Higher Line podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the CarryTrainer Higher Line podcast. We got Drew behind the cameras and editing desk, and today we've got a friend fly all the way up from sunny Georgia to thunderstorming Chicago, Chris Cathers, like a cat, then with an H, so not like a cat at all, like a catheter.
Exactly.
Yes, like a penal catheter.
Like a catheter.
Yeah, Chris.
You got it. Thanks for not butchering my name.
Yeah, I work very hard
Appreciate
at it.
that.
Yeah. People sometimes, it's not a K, it's a C. Who are you?
Where do you want me to start? We'll start...
Where'd you grow up? Where were you born?
I grew up in the Northeast, so about 45 minutes north of Philadelphia.
You don't sound stupid like they do.
I know, man.
Water. I'm just joking if you're from that area.
I always say I'm a reform Yankee because I've been in the South almost my whole adult life.
They fixed you down there?
Yeah, man. I just like the culture better, man. It's just been... I was kind of born and raised up there, raised by my father. And
wait, which culture do you like better, North or South?
Oh, I like the South, man. Yeah. I just feel like people are a little bit more...
into the cousin stuff?
Friendly. I was going with friendly, but,
I agree. This area of the Midwest, super friendly. Northeast, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just people...
What are you looking at?
They're wound a little more tight, I think it's people are wound up a little bit more. Like, Boston, Philly... It's just a rougher culture, You got the cold weather. You always got to go out of your house and bundle up, kind of like Chicago.
It got cold here too, but we've learned to be nice. Our parents hit us with belts enough, I think.
Yeah, that's how I was raised.
So we'll go to the far end and then we'll come back. You produced a documentary. The purpose of the documentary was to help men that served like you did, or women, that maybe are experiencing mental health crisis concerns. It's called Brother's Keeper?
Correct. Brother's Keeper.
Brother's Keeper.
Yeah.
And what was your history in the military?
I joined the military right out of high school. I was a really good athlete.
What year was that?
That was about 92.
Oh,
back, when we were throwing stones at the bad guys, back in the Stone Age. So I joined right out of high school and,
The Army?
Yeah, it was the Army, and there wasn't like the internet wasn't prevalent back then, clearly, and so there wasn't a lot of resource. So I went to the recruiter and I said, "Yeah, I want to be an airborne ranger," not knowing what that meant fully.
Saw some movies.
Yeah, I grew up watching Rambo, like all the Sylvester Stallone movies.
Green Beret though.
Right. So I kind of went that direction, and I went actually in soft skill MOS, furthest thing from special operations. So I was kind of set back a little bit, and after about...
explain that to people like me that don't speak military, so...
Well, when I went in, the recruiter, of course, they saw me coming a mile away. So when I walked in, they saw a young high school kid.
Athlete.
And they're like, how do I fill my quota, So they sent me to work on Apache helicopters. It was a 68 X-ray.
Okay. And
with that MOS, you're more of a support person than you are more of a direct action guy. So after about 4 years, I tried out for, I tried to go to Ranger school. They were like, you can't go to Ranger school because you're MOS. You're not infantry. You don't have the soft skill MOSs at that time weren't able to go try out to be a Ranger. So they're like, you can try out to be a Green Beret. And I was like, well, that sounds way more fucking rad.
Wait, you could go directly from that job to be a Green Beret, but not to...
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went to selection. I was living in Germany at the time. In 1995, I went to Special Forces assessment and selection course at Fort Bragg. I kind of flew in, went through
Did you have anything that you had to do to show that that it wasn't a waste of the military's time to send you there?
Yeah, I mean, there's like pre-quals, you actually, you have to score a certain level on your PT test to be physically fit, but there wasn't a ton of prereqs just to try out. So I did that and I sailed right through, because the only thing at the time that they told me was like, the only, advice I got was, as long as you don't quit, you're going to be good to go. And I was like, well, I can manage that, because I kind of grew up with this, I've had that attitude since I was a kid, never never quitting was kind of in my DNA, which kind of helped me out at the time. So,
Helped you out. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was a big help because it was a lot of more mental. Like I was super fit. I grew up running. I was a real good runner.
You said you were an athlete in high school. What sports?
I dabbled in everything. I played football for 2 years. I played soccer. I wrestled. But then I latched on to running in 8th grade, and I ran 8th grade 3 seasons all the way through my senior year.
Okay.
So, and I was a long distance runner, so it was a lot of mental, it's a mental sport. It's an individual sport, but it's, you have to dig deep, especially in the mile and the 2 mile. They're pretty grueling.
What was your best mile time?
Mile, I wasn't really quick enough mile wise, but I did, I always tell people I broke the 5 minute mile in 8th grade. So I was like, I don't know, something like 4:58 or something like that in 8th grade.
Best 2 mile time.
And that was just a mile.
Okay, what was your best 2 mile time?
My 2 mile times I was mid 9 minute.
Wow.
So like 11th grade, I was undefeated. And then I went to the higher level competition. And that's when I found out there's levels to the game. These dudes, like, I went to districts to, try to make it to states. And the pack went out like I'm trying to remember, I think they were like just over 4:30 for the first mile. I was like, holy crap, man, this pace is absurd. And that was
top dog in your school. And then
yeah, man. I mean, in our district, I mean, I was undefeated, but then I went there with the best runners in the state. And yeah, they were super fast.
I've heard that. My friend Brian, who's was a D1 footballer, had dreams of being in the NFL, and he's a stud. He was a stud athlete, MMA fighter. He's been on the podcast, but he tells a story about being like in the locker room at the college he went to, and I'm like, okay, I guess I better study really hard. Like, it's kind of his joke. And now he's a principal of a huge high school, and still an athlete, but like same thing, like. Really good, and then you get where you're around.
It's next level, levels to the game. You see it in all sports, and you don't realize it really until you get to that level, and you're like, oh wow, and it's hard to get scholarships. Like I had scholarship opportunities, but you have to be an extraordinary runner because in Pennsylvania there's a lot of great long distance runners, and it's super competitive, You
probably wouldn't have ended up in this chair if you had gotten like a big scholarship, huh? Maybe
yeah. Well, I got in a lot of trouble growing up. That was kind of my dad was a cop and got arrested a bunch.
Oh yeah.
I was kind of on.
What kind of stuff?
Well, I think within 6 months, I got arrested like 4 times, something like that. Or 4 major incidences.
What's major? What kind of stupid shit were you doing?
Well, the one
clearly it didn't stop you from joining the army.
My dad was a cop for 40 years, and prior to being in law enforcement, he was in the military. He volunteered during the early days of Vietnam, like 60 to 64. And he was obviously growing up under a cop. Some people try to, some people tend to act up, and I guess I was that guy. But I carried a knife to school. That was one of the...
Who hasn't?
Pre-Columbine, and that story was pretty wild because my dad had to arrest me in front of the whole school. Took me to a holding cell.
Your dad did it to you?
Yeah. He actually showed up because high school, we used to have barbecues at the house, and we'd have all the cops over. And most of them were his deputies. One of his deputies became...
Was your dad the sheriff?
My dad was a sheriff in our town.
Was he the elected sheriff?
He wasn't elected.
Well, you guys have a different setup out there than we do here.
Yeah, he wasn't... so there was a sheriff, then there's a lieutenant.
Okay.
And he was... he actually was a lieutenant, so sheriff was elected. Gotcha. And he didn't want to get into politics. But yeah, I got into a fight in school, and I had a knife on me, and somebody dimed me out, and some kid brought a gun to school.
You pulled it out?
No, it was just in my pocket. But because I was fighting, and some kid happened to bring a gun to school at the same time, and again, pre-Columbine, thank God for me, because that would have changed my trajectory forever. And it made the front page of the newspaper, man, and I was like, man, my dad's gonna murder me.
8th grade, high
This
school?
was probably 11th grade, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. But, I just, underage drinking. I had a bunch of things like that, car wrecks. Mm-hmm. I was just acting up. So I needed a kick in the butt. And my dad gave me the ultimatum. He's like, you got 3 options, bro. You can move out, get a job. You can go to college and pay for it yourself because academically you're just not performing, or you can join the military like I did. And I went down to the recruiter maybe a day or 2 later and signed up for 6 years. And when I told him how long, he goes, how long did you sign up for? I was like, 6 years. He's like, you couldn't do 3. Like put your foot in the water a little bit before you jump in. But that's how I was rolling at the time, So it was a good decision for me, though. I needed a little bit of a kick, and I turned my life around right when I joined the military. It was the thing I needed.
Is Dad still alive?
No, he passed away in 2017, actually, ironically, from cancer.
Okay.
He smoked since he was a kid, and ended up catching up with him later in life. But yeah, I actually got to spend the last month of his life. I took off of work, and he was on hospice, and I got to apologize for being a knucklehead, teenager.
I'm sure he told you not to.
And he was actually like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't know. Remember the time you handcuffed me and took me to jail when I was in high school? And it was a bunch of those incidences. And he was like, stuff happens, It's good closure for me, man. It was a good time. And he actually passed away in the house, which is what he wanted to do.
Home you grew up in?
Yeah. And I was by his side, carried him out of the house in a body bag with my little brother, man. It's the way my dad wanted it, just have family around. So it was actually a good experience considering the situation and all that. Yeah, it was cool.
Mom?
Well, my parents got divorced at 6, so my dad raised me.
Okay.
I don't really.
So it's 2 dudes?
Yeah, it was just us, and my siblings all got, they went with my mom predominantly, so we all got split up. And I think that's probably part of the reason I got a little crazy in high school.
Okay.
Dealing with that divorce at a young age. Never good for anybody, right?
Sure.
So.
No, it's not. So you fast forward, you're at Fort Bragg. You get through the selection process.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I think I dropped 25 pounds in 3.5 weeks, something like that. And I wasn't big, back then I was probably 190, and I dropped down into 170s or something like that. It was grueling, but it was a lot of mental, some days it'd just be run. You're like, how far? They're like, till we tell you to stop. Mm-hmm. And one day it could be 2 miles, the next day it could be a 12-mile run. And it's just little events like that just kind of get in people's heads, And I didn't have a problem with that stuff. It was more on land navigation and small unit tactics. And when I later went on to the Q course, I was playing catch up because I didn't have any of the background, infantry.
Other guys had all the infantry tactics and all that stuff.
And so, I was playing catch up, and it just took me a little bit longer. I got recycled for land navigation, and when I went through the first time, I just tried to use my athleticism to overcome my lack of land navigation. So I would have loved it. I would have loved to seen a printout of how far I ran. Because you start,
Where the hell is it?
The STAR course starts at I don't know, it's 11 o'clock at night through 8 in the morning, and you're just in the woods by yourself trying to find these 5 points, and they call it the STAR course. And it's very hard, and because you're going through swamps and all this stuff, different varying terrain. It's not like you can
100
see.
yards straight line.
Right, and if you could, it would have been hilarious because I probably cover 3 times the distance of anybody else because I'm I don't know where I'm going. So, aside from that, I made it through the Q course, and then I got assigned to an ODA shortly thereafter after language school.
Tell the folks what that is.
So after you go through the Q course, you go through small unit tactics, which is phase 1. Then you go to phase 2, which is you learn your primary skill. For me, it was weapons. So I was a 18 Bravo, a weapons sergeant. So we spent about 6 months learning everything from pistols, rifles, to Stinger missiles, employing pretty much anything, anywhere. And you also need to be well versed in small unit tactics. And then after that, they put you in a simulated A team, and you actually infill into what's called Pineland, and you're in the woods for about a month doing ambushes and raids, and it kind of gives you a sense of what you're going to expect to see overseas. And then after that, you go to language school, SEER school, and then eventually you get tabbed.
What was your language?
Mine was French, because, again...
Why are you laughing?
Well, because French is one of the easiest, if you get French or Spanish,
okay,
they're super easy. Then you have Mandarin and Farsi and all, just Arabic is so much more challenging, or Russian or Mandarin. And you actually it depends where you're going to go. So the areas that you're responsible for, obviously, you want to be speaking whatever the native languages are. And I was going to be going to third group, and part of our area of responsibility is Africa. So there's a lot of French speakers. So I got French, thankfully, because Arabic would have been a challenge. Mm-hmm. So that's about 6 months.
Okay.
And then eventually you get you earn your Green Beret, then they send you off to your A team. So that was my first, I think it was probably around 97 when I got into the team. I was young, man. I was an E4 when I went through, so I was a corporal when I went through selection. And that's pretty much, back then it was as about young as you could be, so I think I was around 25 when I graduated, 25, 26.
Is this when you first met Dave?
Yeah, I think it was about, right when I got to my team, I was in 1st Battalion, Alpha Company, and I got assigned to my team, and they were older guys, like pretty established, like mid-30s. A lot of guys were like in their mid-30s, so I was like the young noob, the young new guy. And
real quick, so I know Chris because he was introduced to me through my friend, and I guess I would call Dave a mentor of mine, Dave Harrington. And he said, "Hey, bro, I need you to call this guy and get him on the podcast." So that's how we know each other. But that's who we're talking about. So you get assigned to the ODA, and that was Dave's?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Well, he was, my team sergeant was JD, Joe Dwyer, and Dave was a senior weapons guy. I was a junior. So you have 2 of every MOS.
Okay.
So you have 2 medics. Typically, if you, in a perfect scenario, you'll have two medics, kind of 2 across the board. You'll have, kind of a senior and then a junior. So you're kind of coming up and learning firsthand from the guy, more senior guys.
In case something happens to somebody.
Exactly. So, yeah, we did a couple deployments, mostly to North Africa, and it was good. We did like counter poaching, demining ops, and at the time it was a lot of foreign internal defense, and the op tempo was nothing like it was post 9/11. Mm-hmm. So that kind of paints the picture. So I was kind of young and motivated, and I think it was my second deployment. 99, I got my first shootout. That was we were transporting some UN folks in a light-skinned Toyota vehicle, and it was late at night. Just kind of spooked these guys.
Not an armored vehicle?
Yeah, it was not armored. It was just a Toyota Land Cruiser, kind of like an ambulance. So you have 2 doors that open in the rear, and then 2, the driver and passenger in the front. And so I did have that was my first incident.
Where did that happen? What country?
That was I think it was near N'Djamena, Chad.
Okay. And
it was a kind of a crazy scenario. Dave wasn't with me on this one, but it was me and a couple of our other guys. We had a PA that was assigned to us, like a physician assistant, and then a couple UN personnel. And then I only had my captain and one other teammate in the car, and they couldn't do anything because they just lit us up with an AK. And I was carrying a fanny pack, which I got made fun of for a long time, but it actually came in really useful because when you're driving, we were low vis, so we didn't have ARs or anything on us.
Just pistols?
Just pistols, man. Beretta 9mm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that was my first kind of incident, but aside from that, the op tempo was slow, and I said, I had to make the decision. I already re-enlisted my first time, and I was coming up on my second, which would put me over 10 years. And I was like, I really wanted to do other things. Like, that's not why I went to SF. We do a lot of training, ops, but because the op tempo was slower back then, I just kind of wanted to move on.
You wanted to do cooler stuff.
I wanted to do cool guy stuff, and I could have tried out to go to the unit, which is at Bragg, Delta. I could have went out for their selection. I thought about it, but I was still a little young, and there's no guarantee that you pass. That's a super hard course or selection process to do that. And I decided I wanted to go to PA school and get out. So I had a talk with my team sergeant at the time. I said, look, I think I'm going to get out. And he kind of, didn't persuade me hard to stay in. So I ended up getting out, going to PA school up in Philadelphia around going into 2000. So before 9/11 again. But while I was in school, 9/11, that's when it actually went down. I was on my way to take a biology test of all things, and was getting my hair cut early in the morning, which I'll never forget. I was sitting in the barber chair and I saw it live, the first plane burning into the World Trade Center, and I was like, man, this is pretty nuts. And I wasn't certain that it was. I thought, there's a possibility it was a mistake, like just an accident, it's some freak thing. But when I was driving to school, it was about an hour drive. I was listening to Howard Stern, and he was looking out the window.
The best news source.
When Howard Stern gets serious, you're like, uh-oh. And the second one hit, and I was like, I just turned around, went back home. I was like, this is, some shit's gonna go down, And I tried right away to get back. I called my team sergeant back up, tried to get back on the team. And, we had a talk about it, because he's like, look, Panama, Grenada, the first Gulf War, it was all over. By the time you get back in and in process, this thing might be over. So I started reaching out to friends, and one of my good friends that I've been friends with for almost 30 years now is, there was some opportunity to work for the agency doing high-risk protection in Iraq and Afghanistan. So I said, yeah, man, what do I got to do? So I had to go through a vetting, program, like shooting, doing some, it's basically another assessment course, just to make sure, physically, mentally, you meet the criteria. And that took me about a year and a half.
That long?
Yeah, it was pretty lengthy, because you had to do your SF-86, get your, clearance.
I don't know what any of that is.
Well, it's like paperwork for your security clearance.
I see.
So I had to get all that knocked out. So background check, FBI comes to your house. Mm-hmm. And once that was done, I did a workup, and we were some of the first guys in Iraq. I think we might have been the first guys for that group in 2003. So we were there in the summer in Baghdad. So that's what took me to.
So you ended up
Baghdad.
not going back into the Army. You went to work for the three-letter people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was great, man. 03 was it was a blast. It was like the Wild West back then. It's like beg, borrow, steal. We were on the road every day. Things were kind of quiet, because it was just the invasion just was wrapping up. And then I did I think I was there pretty much from the summer to December, went home for a bit, came back in January, and things just started, just really picking up. The op tempo was crazy in 04. Driving on the roads got very dangerous, because there was a ton of IEDs. Mm-hmm. I got hit a few times with different IEDs, twice on Khadijah Expressway, or Route Irish, which was at the time the most dangerous road in the world, because every time you drive on that thing, it was like people were getting hit.
Something bad was happening.
Yeah, and you can't fight an IED. That's the thing, why they're so effective. I mean, if you get hit, you're expecting small arms fire, and sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't, But I continued to kind of be there. I was in Iraq. I think through April and of 2004. And then I went to Afghanistan and then Israel over the next couple of years. I was just kind of rotating through countries, just doing ops in different parts. I wanted to get the flavor, I really wanted to get to Afghanistan too, to see see the differences and it was just more of a historical thing too. I wanted to see what everything was about. So, and totally different experiences in all the different countries I operated in. It was totally wild. And Africa, I would still say, was probably the most crazy because it's it's like some of the villages, or go back, they haven't seen, like, I remember little kids coming out, and I had like a blonde beard at the time before all this came. Little kids would be pulling on it because they never saw a white guy before with, blonde hair.
Sure. And
they're like pulling on my beard, and I'm like, this is crazy, man. Living in mud huts like 1,000 years ago.
Now the world has completely changed 25 years later, where most everybody has somehow got access to a little glass screen at some point,
Yeah. And that's what's crazy. You'll be over there and if you're an African in this village that they don't have running water, but they'll have a satellite dish in the middle of nowhere.
Crazy, right?
How the do they have a satellite dish when they don't have running water?
Right.
Priorities.
Right. Gotta watch that old Seinfeld rerun.
Right.
So, how many years did you end up doing that job?
I think, 03, 4, 5, and 6 were pretty much my heyday.
Okay.
And then I made the decision to get out, and my buddy John Zinn, who was a partner of mine, he was from SEAL Team 3, was introduced to me by my buddy Ron, who I went through the Q course with. He also brought me into the fold with the agency. Well, they started an armored vehicle company in California.
Okay.
And I invested in it early days. They called me up and were like, hey man, we need you got like 10 grand? Then I get another phone call, yeah, you got like another 10 or 15 grand? I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. Sure, dude. Because I've known Ron forever, and it was a good investment because later on when I got out, they were rocking and rolling on these vehicle contracts, and we made low-profiled armored vehicles.
Oh, cool.
So part of the problem was we didn't blend. When you're driving a Suburban in Iraq,
it looks like that's the thing.
it's like a giant target, going down the road, or we had a silver H2 Hummer that we were driving prior to Paul Bremer. Doc K was kind of leading the CPA, or like the provisional government, and we would drive him down Khadijah in this silver freaking H2.
It's like a shoot me vest.
Oh my goodness, it was the most cringy thing. It might as well have been like bright orange, with a big circle on it with the target.
The company you invested in was taking more nondescript vehicles and armoring them up. So
yeah, and so if you're indigenous and you blend, that's all you need to get through the X, because the guys aren't really sure from a distance if you're a friend or foe. Mm-hmm. But if you're driving like a BMW 7 Series, I got blown up in a G500 once, or Chevy Suburban, they just stick out, like They don't belong. And the problem was the U.S. government was just scrambling to get armored vehicles of any kind, mm-hmm. because in 03 it wasn't a problem. We were driving soft-skin trucks, like sitting in the back of them, kitted up, not a big deal. But when everything in 04, it just started getting kind of crazy. We were like, we need armor, we're gonna have a lot of dead dudes, But it attracted a lot of attention, the vehicles we were driving. So that's why Inogen was a great idea, conceptually, was let's build a package or a vehicle that blends, but if it does get hit, it has a great armored package behind it.
Are they still doing stuff?
No, so what happened was I worked for Inogen from they started in 04, and I came on board around 06, the end of 06 as a project manager. Got my business degree, started working on my MBA, did a lot of Lean Six Sigma courses and automotive type courses to get vested. And we ended up selling to private equity in 2010.
Okay.
And it was about that time, I think it was about a week later or so, in May in 2010, my buddy John was on a business trip and he ended up passing away.
Oh, wow. What happened?
Well, he was in Jordan. He was in Amman, Jordan. And there's like this industry conference. It's called SOFEX, and Special Operation Exhibition for like anybody who has defense products comes. It's a giant airfield full of different products, like everything. And
the gods of war.
Yeah, anything that
can kill and maim.
It's
be paid
all
for
under
by the taxpayers of whatever country's building it.
Exactly, and I ended up getting a phone call one night about 3 in the morning or so. It was actually from another guy that we were working with, and he was like, "Hey, whenever you get a call at 3 in the morning, you know it's bad news, right?" So I kind of knew. I got woke up. I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Hey, we got to put the private equity guys on the phone. There's been something went down." And I'm like, "Well, what?" He's like, "Well, just stand by. We got to get everybody on the call." And I was like, I kind of knew at that point it was going to be super bad. And they're like, "Yeah, John's dead." And I was like, "What? Are you sure?" And, you know, it just kind of, at first it didn't really process because he's 32 years old. He's a SEAL. We worked in, you know, Iraq together and been in some pretty bad, crazy environments. And, you know, I was like, let's make sure. And they made sure. And then I had to tell his wife, John's wife, Jackie, was at that time 9 months pregnant with his first boy. And he had 2 daughters, Cameron and Riley. And they answered the door and they were like, maybe like 6 or 7 years old.
Over there physically.
Yeah, so my buddy Ron comes over to the house because he was involved in the business. He was a founder and an owner. He came to my house, and we all walked up about 6 a.m. to brief her. And she opened the door, you know, the kids opened the door. And as soon as she was walking down the stairs and she set eyes on us, she knew. And she just wailed like, I say it a lot because I'll never forget the sound. And it was just like heartbreaking shit. And I had to go back and put a happy face on that same day. You know, I had to go into work to you know, we just got acquired. I had roughly 65 employees for Inogen. We had 3 businesses, and I had to be like, hey, everything's good. So I left her and went to do that. And it was a pretty crazy time, man. And we had to pick his body up, you know, and bring it, you know, his body from, I think it was Atlanta. I can't really even remember anymore. But it wasn't like, picked this casket up from Jordan a week later, had to get his body back, and then his father wanted to open the casket. And he was a Vietnam vet, and he was our corporate lawyer. And I was like, oh man, he fell 40 feet off a building, like in Jordan. This is gonna be horrible. And we're sitting there with crowbars, you know.
Why?
Because they had this box, and then inside the box was another casket. So we didn't even know what was in this box, like as you know, as we're opening it. So
this is just like you dudes. There's no funeral director.
We're in a funeral home, and we're just like prying this casket open.
So there's not somebody there that's like in the funeral business. That, not that there should be, but I'm just trying to like picture this.
Yeah, I think the crypt keeper guy, you know, from the funeral parlor was just kind of standing by, going, "Wow, I probably hadn't seen that one happen before." Because his father wanted to get closure and make sure you know,
my kid,
which I get.
What happened?
But me having to be there with that, I was like, oh, this is so horrible, man. Yeah. So it was like a series of unfortunate events, which has led me to what I'm doing today. So like,
well, how did he fall? Just slipped?
It was, you know, I think it was just an accident. Honestly, there's been a lot of conjecture. You know, we went over there and we had guys over there with him, and they retraced the steps and everything. He was going to meet the king of Jordan the next morning, and was kind of navigating through some back alleys, and anyway, he fell off this building trying to get to where he was going so he could be on time for this meeting. And
wow.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. But like all this stuff went down. And I could go on for like an hour and a half on this. I'll save you, but so about that time he had a $3 million life insurance policy, and without getting into anything that's going to open me up legally, I didn't agree how the private equity company handled it. These were our personal life insurance policies, and they decided, you know, that based on whatever legal means, there was some gray area where this money would go into the company. And I worked for the company for 8 months and finally had enough. I said, hey, call New York, tell them it's an ultimatum. I need to know what's going to happen with his life insurance policy.
So his family didn't get this money?
No, they actually told me on that call, you know, I told my CFO, I said, hey, call New York, tell them I'm not doing this anymore. It's been 8 months. They keep giving me the runaround. And I kind of knew my gut, you know, and they said, tell his wife to sue us. And I was like, I resigned. So my buddy's dead. I resigned on the spot. And then shortly thereafter, my wife divorced me and left. She went back to DC.
Wow.
And I'm in this big old house all by myself, no friends, no job, no wife. And that's when, you know, I think that was a straw that the catalyst, you know, that set things off mentally for me at that point. Because I just started sweating at that point. I was like, why am I sweating so much? And I started drinking, self-medicating, and I was like, how am I gonna get my shit together? This has been a really bad couple months. And started taking pain meds, and I was on Ambien for 2 years. I couldn't sleep. And so I started working out more. I was doing MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back then. And my coach would wrap
What year was this?
Like 2010
Okay.
and 11. And I was doing 2-a-days, then I went to 3-a-days. I got down to like 170 pounds. Just, you know, getting on the Aerodyne bike and freaking redlining myself. And that was the only time I got a little bit of relief, is when I was like pegged out. But the problem was I got so fit. I was training with world-class athletes, UFC fighters, like high-level guys, like doing the workouts with them, because that was my therapy. And it just didn't cut it anymore. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right. So I ended up, about 6 months later, I ended up interviewing to run the U.S. armored vehicle business for Jankel, which is a great armored vehicle company in South Carolina, in Duncan, South Carolina. And even during the job interviews, I was taking, you know, pain meds. I don't even remember 2 or 3 of my interviews. I had 5 interviews because of the importance.
Were you physically in pain, or it was more emotional?
No, it was just all emotional, just mental.
Shutting down the hurt.
Yeah, and I think it was just the anxiety, because I was sweating so much. I'm like, I don't want them to think I'm nervous, because I wasn't nervous. I was fully capable of the job, but I had so much pressure. You know, now I have this 6,000 square foot house. I got to pay all these bills. Wife's gone. I got to sell that house. It's an hour and a half away from where I lived. I was commuting every day, and I got the job, which was great, but I always immersed myself in work as a distraction. I'm a workhorse, so like, the more chaotic, I had to start a whole new vehicle business from the ground up, 68,000 square foot facility. They said, we want to win U.S. State Department. I said, all right, I'll be your guy, but it's gonna be a lot of work. So I did that for about 5 years. Came down to Georgia from there. Recruiter hit me up for another perimeter security defense company, which was a turnaround situation. They wanted somebody to turn this mom and pop into 100% growth in a year, that kind of thing. And I did that for a couple years, and then I got back into private security for the last 5 years, because I was always fit, taking care of myself, working out, lifting. And
you consider this fit?
No, not now. This was like 3 years. This is 3 years ago. No, the wheels fell off the bus, buddy.
You're ripped.
Yeah, the wheels have fallen off the bus.
Keep going.
So
you were doing more corporate management stuff for these other businesses, and you say you got back into physical security. I mean, you're out there doing the job.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was cool. I love doing crazy work. Like, I just love the crazier, the more challenges. I was just always attracted to that kind of work, like turnaround situations. And government contracting is a very difficult space to be in, because it's very aggressive. There's no guarantees. You just got to work your butt off and be different. So I did that. I started getting back into private security, doing high risk protection for like celebrities and A-listers and things like that. And I enjoyed that because I didn't have that purpose anymore. I just was like, what's my, like, the money's great. I love the insanity, but once it stabilized, I was like, I need a higher purpose. And I've always been attracted to, like, I felt like a Ronin at that time when I was in my last corporate position. I just felt like a samurai with no purpose. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I was like, let me get back in the EP or executive protection work and protect people, because I just feel like you're putting someone else's life, in front of yours. Or behind yours. You're kind of like, there's a lot of inherent risk. You always got to be switched on, and if something goes down, their life is more important than yours. That's what you're doing. And I thought it was just kind of a nice, like, I don't know, I've been attracted to that my whole life for some reason. And then I guess in 19, that's when my world changed again. Like, I was doing EP work, and I thought I had a sports injury. It was in 2019. So I was coming back from Italy with a client, and I felt something in my hip, and I was like, I probably tore something in jiu-jitsu, Like, I was training a lot and lifting a lot, and I was like 230 pounds, really fit. And I knew I was injured. I knew it was definitely an injury. Like, I wasn't hurt. And so I got an MRI when I came home.
So it was pretty bad pain if you went and got this.
Well, it wasn't that bad, to be honest with you. I just figured I tore something. I thought it was like a labrum, something in my hip. I must have messed it up in jiu-jitsu somehow, and it just didn't heal. Okay. So it was like off and on. It didn't really hurt. But what happened was all my friends started getting sick that I worked with in 03 and 04. And initially when those guys were getting sick, like they were getting...
in that first go around with the agency.
Right. And I think the first couple years, I thought, I didn't want to jump onto the conspiracy theory, because a couple guys, we had one guy had brain cancer. He ended up passing away. He fought it, recovered, then lost the battle. Pancreatic cancer. Then we started having guys have ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, super rare. And we had 4 or 5 of those guys.
Wait a minute. So one group of dudes all worked together. 4 or 5 had ALS.
Yeah. We had... wow. We probably lost, like, guys that I've worked with, at least 25, maybe 30.
Out of how many?
Out of a very small pool. Probably like maybe 100 people that I'm aware of,
A third of them have passed away.
Yeah.
From disease.
Just random, weird, strange stuff, like
cancers and ALS and things like that.
Yeah, like leukemia and brain cancer, pancreatic cancer, colon cancer. So it's just all these weird. And at first, I just chalked it up to, hey, the guys. But these guys are young and they're fit. Most of them are SEALs or SF, took care of themselves. And I thought it was just, coincidence at first. But over the years, I started buying into it. And now I'm 100% bought in, because I've saw so many guys get sick.
You bought into?
Well, I think it was something environmentally. There's burn pits, there's depleted uranium. There's a lot of environmental factors when you're in a war zone that lend itself for people to get sick.
You guys can't identify any one particular exposure point?
I don't think so. I think it's just it's everybody's DNA is different too, so these things present differently for different people. But yeah.
Go ahead.
So when all this stuff, because I started believing in it, when I got checked out, the radiologist called me back in 30 minutes. He's like, bro, I've been doing this like 25 plus years, and I have no idea what's wrong with you, but you need to be in the hospital right now. And I was like, oh shit. So I was driving with my wife, and she works in an ER. She was a ER nurse.
So you got remarried.
Yep.
From the first wife.
Yeah, my wife Jen and I, we've been together 10 years now. And so she has a lot of, 15 plus years in the ER. So she got me into the ER, and I was in for 5 days initially, and they misdiagnosed me. They said, oh, you have a bone infection. And they slapped me on the butt, gave me some antibiotics. And I said, man, I'm not buying this because of my friends. The only reason I got a second opinion was because I knew all my buddies were getting these weird sickness and ailments. So I went to this awesome doc called Dr. Rayapudi. She's an infectious disease doctor. I told her all the places I've been. I said, look, all my friends are starting to get sick. And she's like, well, I don't think you have cancer. And that was the first time I heard the word. I was like, oh, what? She's like, I'm going to send you to an ortho-oncologist. I'm going to see what he says.
Just to have it looked at, yeah.
And so I went, this was in September 19, going into October. You know, he looked at me, he goes, you have at least a bone infection. What we're going to do is we're going to go into your upper right, where your femoral head is, off your femur, and we're going to do a bone graft and repair the damage that's been done. I was like, all right, cool. He's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to do load-bearing, work. You can't walk unassisted for 6 weeks, but then you should be good to go. I was like, okay, cool. So I called them up a week later because he wanted to do a biopsy to see if it. He goes, well, after the surgery, the bone graft, he goes, it's less than 10%. I've seen a lot of cancers. I don't think it's that. Well, I called them a week later, and I'm like, hey, you guys got my biopsy results? They said, oh yeah, you have cancer. It's pretty advanced. It's bone cancer.
What?
It's really rare. I was like, what? And she's like, I'm sure you got questions. And, I was like, yeah, I got questions. Like, am I going to die? Well, that would be a good question. And that's what kicked everything off, man, over the last 3 years of things I've been dealing with.
So what they end up doing to that leg?
Well, I didn't even heal up from the bone graft. Then they're
because there's cancer in there.
Yeah, he's like, look, all that work we just did, that's all got to come out. He's got to remove half to 3/4 of your femur in your right leg and your hip. Then when I was on the table, he's like, your quad needs to come out and some of your glute.
The muscles.
Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm just finding out about this. I'm on the table, dude. Like, did you just look at this stuff for the first time now? So I was like, all right, let's rock and roll.
Awake.
Yeah.
You were not going to be awake for the surgery, were you?
Oh, hell no. They're using sawzalls and chainsaws.
So you're laying there. They haven't yet put you under, but he's just looking at you and decides this?
I think what happened was these guys are so busy, they do an initial, just a quick cursory, but before the surgery, they do another, MRI, and they're really looking at it. And he's like, some of it spread to your muscles. So I was like, well, that sounds serious. So I was like, man, my bathing suit, I'm not going to, how am I going to look at my Speedo? But, so yeah, that's when they did that surgery. And my wife wanted to murder me because while I was on the table getting prepped for surgery, I was like, so can I keep my femur and make custom knives for my buddies? Because who does that, right? So I had this idea, and I found an article that somebody else kept the femur, and I showed him on my cell phone, and the doc laughed. He goes, no, dude, you cannot keep your femur to make custom knives for your friends, you weirdo.
It's my femur. I want my femur.
He's like, well, we have to, get good margins and make sure, I was like, all right, whatever. So that kind of bummed me out. I couldn't get knives.
So they replaced all this with metal and composite?
Yeah, titanium from here up, from mid-thigh up.
The hip joint is new, and that main chunk of femur.
So it was pretty. He called it a brutal and radical surgery, like the actual surgeon.
Yeah, you jumped in my truck. You
I was like,
and walked up and down the stairs. This is only 2.5, 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
You're running a little bit.
I had run. They said I would never run again, so I did it 6 months after surgery.
If I watched you walking, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And you could see maybe you've got you favor one leg slightly.
Dude, it's shorter. I just went to a chiropractor. I'm throwing witch doctor shit at my health just to stay fit and as long as I can.
All you chiros, I told you you're witch doctors.
They're witch doctors. I got a good one though, man. But I'm doing hyperbaric chamber, all sorts of weird stuff. But he measured my legs. I got a picture of it. It's almost an inch shorter now.
So they could just chop that frickin' piece of steel a little too short.
Think so, man. Or, all your muscles, everything starts to adapt, probably gets tight. So I'm trying to stretch that. I'm like, wait, couldn't you make me taller? I'd like to be 6'4", you know what I'm saying?
So they cut this out. Did you do chemo or anything like that?
So that's the only treatment is surgery. So I went through all that, learned how to walk again, and then I took another contracting gig like an idiot. Like 6-8 months after my surgery, I was first on a walker, wheelchair, then a walker, then a cane.
Wow.
And I had a guy call me, for a very high risk gig, and it was like in the mountains. And I'm like, bro, I'm on a cane. I'm compromised. I'm not going to be an asset. I'm going to be a liability. He's like, no, mate, you got this thing. And I was like, no. I said no 3 times, and I ended up doing this thing. That was my last time I worked in this field, right? But since then, it's definitely a lot of rehabs. I put tons of work into this, man. Like I just, I threw my cane down the day that I got the phone call that I agreed to take this op. I threw my cane down last time I touched it. And I was like, I'm just going to get after it, man. I'm going to do everything I can to get as functional. And I wish I still could do jiu-jitsu because I wanted to finish that journey. But, because it's in my hip and they cut through your adductors and abductors, if you're pulling guard and somebody just pushes on your leg, they said it'll cut it off. So
that's not a good thing.
After this surgery, then I got MRSA, which you're familiar with, and jiu-jitsu saved my life. So all you jiu-jitsu guys that tune in for this, man, I just saw a little spot, and I talked to my wife about it, and I almost lost my leg. They almost cut it off at the hip. If I waited much longer, it would have been game over. And so thankfully, I knew what it looked like from training. I never had MRSA or staph, but I had friends that I trained with, and I'm like, looks like a zit. Like, that's it?
Right.
And that will freaking kill you if you don't jump on it. So I did 3 months of Dapto, all this like daptomycin and hardcore antibiotics, an hour a day. It was an hour to 2 hours every single day for 3 months. And then I would let them stick me, and then I'd go to the gym.
Wow.
Because I didn't want to do a port, because I wanted to work out. And they were like, you're a freaking dumbass. And then right after that COVID hit, the world changed, like, forevermore. And it just got weird. So I guess it was about 1.5 years ago. Maybe it was about 2 years ago. They found a couple things in my lungs. Initially, it was just my upper, middle, and lower right side of my lung. And then it was too small to biopsy, so I knew I was stage 4.
Symptoms?
No, I just I have to do CTs every 3 months for the rest of my life. And
because of the hip?
Yeah, because they want to make sure the first place it metastasizes your lungs, and I was a grade 3 of 4, and that means it's pretty advanced, and it's highly likely. I think my survival rate initially was like 25% for 5 years.
Wow.
And I'm at 4 now-ish. And so I knew I was stage 4 for like a full year because my lungs have always been clear. Before surgery, everything was good to go. And then the stuff presented. Then it went to my left lungs. I have these little, they call them suspicious nodules. So last February in 2022, they went in to do a biopsy to see, confirm it whether it was or wasn't cancer. Mm-hmm. They went in there, the surgeon missed, bro. Like, he missed the target. I was on a ventilator for like, I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours. Week later, he's like, I'm sorry I missed. I was like, dude, you had one job. But the same surgeon just performed in September 20th of last year. They removed my lower right lobe because this thing started growing.
When we first started talking, so you had a chunk of that whole right lung cut out.
Yeah, and that was pretty crazy because I didn't know what to expect, but it was way better than the leg.
You were working out 3 days after that?
Yeah, so I got out of the hospital my second day, and I went for a trail hike. I did 3 miles on the third day because I just wanted to get the capacity back. Like, the worst thing you can do is, you obviously don't want to overdo stuff, but you can't just sit on your ass. You got to get after it, man. Like, I just want to get it back as soon as I can. It's a mental thing for me.
What was the cancer?
So it's same, it metastasized. So I'm stage 4, and now my survival rate is like 8% or something. Yeah, probably less than that because this other one, you're dealing with two different things.
But you look so good.
Yeah, it's because I try to stay up on my nutrition. I've been kind of slack the last couple months a little bit, but I stay up on that, and I work out 5 days a week. I do strength training now because I can't do functional fitness, which I really like love to do. So now I just do like more static stuff, like strength training. I try to walk, as much as possible, and just watch the nutrition too.
So the plan is keep checking you when things pop up. Just keep operating on the individual spots.
That's it. And at some point, I got to make the decision. Like for me, it's quality over quantity, which a lot of people don't. I'm trying to motivate and inspire people. You could have, physical limitations. You could be an amputee. You could just have something that's limiting your mobility. Well, there's people, I'm trying to inspire them to get after people with mental, going through some mental struggles, like get after it. Or, cancers, like if you got cancer, like just get after it, because you're going to buy yourself more time and you're going to have more enjoyment out of life. You just got to put that work in, Which
is kind of brings us full circle to your mission, your documentary, what you're doing with Brothers Keeper.
Yeah, so it was kind of, it was last January I set out, like, when all this went down in 19, I decided to finally get treatment, because I dealt with the mental, I had suicidal ideation for the better part of 10 to 12 years. Like, it would just be, not every single day, but it would crop up for every day for a month. That's all I thought about, was like checking out. It was just always there.
Is it, I want to do this because I just can stop this cycle of thought or hurt or pain, or was it, that's just seemed like a good idea?
I think it was just always there. Like, it started with my anxiety was so high. Like, it started ruling my life. Like, I couldn't even train. Like, going to jiu-jitsu was just like being around guys.
Hyper anxiety ridden.
Yeah, it was just, and then like, I didn't go out much, I just stayed in my house. And, I'd just go to the gym and go to the grocery store. That was the only two things I would do.
Did you talk with teammates or guys you served with?
No, because, like, I talked to my buddy Ron. He's the one that saved me. So in 2000, when all this went down with my buddy John, in 2010...
Just for everybody, so they're keeping up. John is your friend that fell.
Yeah, John was former SEAL. When he passed away I started drinking and not sleeping. I started having anxiety. It got so bad to a point. It was around 2011 I decided that was the first time I attempted to commit suicide. And it was crazy. I was sitting in my house all alone. And, that morning I was already drunk by 10 a.m., Like, I was drinking a lot.
What'd you drink?
Mostly liquor, because, beers I would have to drink, it wasn't efficient. And, I was on pills, and my doorbell rings, and I'm like, I literally had a pistol in a hand, sitting on my couch in my house. I put plastic up in my bathtub, because that's where I intended to do it, and I just said, I'm just going to do it right here. And my doorbell rings, and my buddy Ron at the time lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he's got 4 kids. He's busy running his business, and I'm in Lake Wylie, South Carolina, and the doorbell rings, and I'm like, how inconvenient. So I decided to get the door, and I see my buddy with bags in hand. Like, somebody called him, one of my, I think it was my CFO. He's like, hey, he's in a bad way, man. I think he might check out. Like, he actually reached out to Ron, and Ron, without missing a beat, didn't tell me. He flew from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and ended up on my front door, literally the day of. Like, it was the most insane thing ever. And I recently wrote a song about it with Operation Song, to kind of memorialize our friendship, but it was such a dark time of my life, but he saved me time and again. So whenever I got to a dark place, he would be my out. I'd end up, calling him, or he'd be checking in on me and be like, what the dude, get your shit together. And so I kind of felt guilty for wearing him out over 10 years. I'm like, he's got kids and stuff. Like, I need to get my act together. Like, I don't like living like this. I'm going to end up killing myself, because I would put a gun to my head, I don't know, 100 times a year, maybe more. And I was like, this is not...
What stopped you?
That's a great question, man, because you don't want to die, but you don't feel like, at the time, you feel like there's no other freaking way out. All you feel is darkness and despair, and just, it was one of the most horrible feelings. I'd rather get the shit kicked out of me by 6 guys in an alley any day than go through that mental anguish. You know, you're just like tortured. And you have no control over the anxiety, you know, like it rules your life, keeps you from doing things you want to do. So I think it was a lot of that. And I was like, if I'm going to fight cancer, I got to get my mental state heightened. Like, yeah, it needs to be good to go. So I ended up finally doing talk therapy. I did mine through the VA. A lot of guys hate the VA. I totally understand why, but I just needed to talk to somebody and start working out like what the going on, because I don't have any issues with combat stress. Like I don't have any fear-based reactions to things.
You're not hyper-vigilant or...
Well, I am hyper-vigilant, but there's some of the...
So you're saying the loud noise of the thunder outside is not putting you under the chair?
Yeah, so mine was more of a moral injury. So working for, you know, a company that ended up, you know, like over my like real good friend and my CEO, my friend, one of my partners. We were so close, you know, and there was other things at the time that were more morally, you know, I kind of broke my code in my head. Can you
disconnect your deployments and service though? And I mean, because you can't say it's because of that. That stress still is cumulative?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a cumulative effect, you know. It's like death of 1,000 paper cuts. That's why I tell dudes, like, I never will try to tell people not to do a certain job. I would do all the same stuff again if I could right now. I'd still be doing it. But you need to jump on these things as they present, you know.
Let them turn into monsters.
Yeah, rule it. Like when something starts presenting, you start getting anxious and like deal with it at the time and then get back to work. And don't let it build up to become something like a monster, you know, that rules your life. And I didn't know all these things at the time. I've learned, like, so I decided, like, let me do some talk therapy. I finally did meds too, which I tell guys, I'm like, I was anti-meds for a long time because I remember going to my primary care doctor. I was like, I can't sleep. I got anxiety. I didn't tell him I was suicidal, because I was afraid they're going to pull my clearance, you know, and I couldn't work. And like, then I'm and he's like, well, we can give you this SSRI, but, you know, your dick might not work. I was like, well, I'm not taking that. Like, that's the worst thing. I want to hear that shit. So I decided, like, to try, you know, hey, let me just try to stable out here, put the time in. So every week I was talking to somebody, and I was super consistent. And then I started looking into all these different treatment modalities that are out there. But that led me to contact a filmmaker, this Daniel Beatty, that's local in Atlanta. I said, look, I want to make a documentary. I don't know if I'm going to live to see the end of this documentary, because last January I was still pretty and, you know, I mask it well. You know, that's the problem. A lot of guys are like, dude, I just talked to that guy. You know, we just had...
You mask?
Like the symptoms well. Like...
of which...
Like depression and, you know, all that stuff. Because I'm usually like the funny guy, you know. I like making light of situations and...
Cheers of a clown.
Yeah, it's one of those. Like Robin Williams is a good example, right? And you'd be like, man, that guy doesn't... But then you start seeing it after he committed suicide. You start looking back and you're like, like I see something there. But... yeah, I wanted to start last January. I started filming a documentary, not knowing anything about film. I've always stayed away from film, movies, books, all that stuff. I don't enjoy being in front of...
Meaning
you know...
We're not trying to put your face all over the internet and world because of your job. And
Right. I did quite the opposite, you know. I've never been on Facebook. Social media for super limited. And so... We started out on this thing. I said, I want to raise awareness to the high prevalence of the epidemic of veteran suicides that's going on. I just started having more and more friends call me. I've started losing more and more friends. 3 weeks ago, I had 3 guys in 1 week hit me up that were suicidal. Mm-hmm. One, we had to get the police involved, send him out because he was out of state. And it was just like, I said, look, I tell everybody I call myself a professional sufferer because I do pretty good through adversity and like traumatic shit, you know? But I'm like, how are these other guys doing it? And then I figured out these other guys aren't doing it.
They're doing the same thing you're doing.
You know,
right.
like they're not going to make it 10 years. Like, too. Yeah, they need help. And part of the community, part of the problem is it's not manly to talk about your feelings and all this stuff. It's these stigmas, you know, like, you know, it shows the signs of weakness. So what I wanted to do is put myself in front of the camera and say, look, guys, like, for me to destigmatize this, be like, hey, this guy had a cool career, did some cool stuff, but it can impact anybody. And I want to encourage people to get out and go talk to somebody and start working on themselves. No different than your physical body. You know, if you're doing MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or whatever your thing is, you got to work on your body, you got to work on your mind, you know, you got to work on all those facets of life equally. You can't just always work on your physical self without taking care of your brain, you know. And a lot of guys have TBIs too, you know, like traumatic brain injuries are huge. You know, you get blown up, you get micro tears in your brain. There's it's actually a physical injury. So I'm trying to, you know, through the work in the documentary, destigmatize post-traumatic stress disorder. People are saying post-traumatic stress now, and I'm trying to move it towards post-traumatic stress injury, because a lot of guys I talk to, I'm like, dude, if you break your leg, you're going to go to the doctor, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, if you get blown up, and you know, or have a traumatic brain injury from something through your work, even in MMA, you've taken head trauma, you got to take care of your brain. If I put you in an MRI, I can show you physically that your brain has been damaged. And there's ways, there's things you can do to kind of improve it. So why wouldn't you do that? You know, it's not you're not weak for getting smashed in the face, you know, training all the time, but you got to protect your brain because it impacts everything, you know.
What do you think? So you've got Warriors Heart's hat on. Tom Spooner founded Warriors Heart and Mission 22. There's organizations like that, and there's others. Like, why isn't that enough?
Well, I'll tell you, so when I started the documentary, I was like, I want to look, you know, with the time that I have left, I want to spend it helping other veterans. I'm not getting any money for this. I just get the enjoyment of like, these dudes hit me up after I do a podcast and they're like, bro, you know, I'm suffering with this. What can I do? Right? So for the last 2 years, last summer, with help of Charlie Daniels' Journey Home Project and David Corlew, great dude, he helped pay for our legal. You know, I asked David Corlew, I said, hey, do you know any nonprofit lawyers? He's like, yeah, like I know ours in Tennessee, so I'll hook you up with them. He goes, as a matter of fact, I want to help pay for your 501c3 Brothers Keeper Veteran Foundation. Want to help you guys get it off the ground to help other veterans. I said, man, that's crazy. I didn't know what to say, you know. So I owe a lot to Journey Home and David Corlew. They help get us up and running. I said, I want to do something that helps guys well after I'm gone, right? And that just makes me feel so good, the fact that how many people can we help as an organization. So what we're doing is we're hand-holding veterans. So with Warriors Heart, Tom Spooner's organization, if I have a struggling veteran, we're going to actually assess them. We're going to connect all the nonprofits. I look at them as strategic partnerships and be like, hey, let's send you out. If you're willing to do a 42-day program, drugs and alcohol, PTS treatment, let's get you out to Texas, to you know, Lisa Lannon, Josh Lynn, and Tom Spooner's organization out there in Bandera. They got 600 acres, 150 employees. Let's get you treated. Well, when they get done, we want to. Well, maybe they have a massive TBI. Well, let's connect you with Shepherd's Men in Georgia. Let's get you out there and look at your brain. And then, you know, maybe they need help going back to work, Heroes for Hire, or the Independence Fund. Maybe they have mobility concerns. This could be 2-3 years worth of hand-holding, and we want to simply fund them as a sponsor. We'll help Warriors Heart out. You know, if these veterans they can't cover the out-of-pocket expense, hey, we'll take care of you guys. Let me just connect you with those guys. So it's a little bit different. And this is our foundational year. We're doing a bunch of fundraisers this year. and laying the groundwork for the foundation. And I'm hoping to have everything fully staffed by Q1 of next year. And we're actually doing a shooting fundraiser in Nashville.
Very cool.
That's going to be, there's going to be active duty and retired Delta Force operators, active and retired Green Berets running a range for us in Clarksville. And then we're going to have live music at Andy Lang's Leatherwood Distillery out there.
Very cool.
So it should be pretty cool. Maybe a couple celebrities and stuff coming out for that. Just a fun shoot, you know. We're not getting too jiggy, but yeah, we're doing some fun, good fundraisers this year.
How do people find the organization and donate or help or?
Yeah, so we kept it simple because the name of the foundation is Brothers Keeper Veterans Foundation. So bkvf.org is our website.
bkvf.org.
Yep. And when you go to our website, all our socials, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok, which I'm freaking sorry to say we had to do that. You know, social media guys.
Delete it.
You know, but
delete it.
Hey man, I gotta grow it, you know? I gotta grow it.
Delete it.
Think so?
Delete it.
You got TikTok?
No.
Good man.
Find me on TikTok. Find me. CBM on TikTok. I actually, just a side note, I am about to buy a new phone. This is what I decided on a recent road trip. I'm going to go buy, so like Drew's got an iPhone. I hate iPhone. But everybody's like, it makes fun of me constantly because they, you know, the stupid whatever message color bullshit with iPhone, you know, that's I've got an Android, so they don't know like if they, you understand the miscommunication between the iPhone and Android. So like my friend Dan Hart and AG from the Rash Guard and Toehold Company, they're constantly breaking my balls because I've got an Android. So anyway, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go buy a iPhone so that all of these cocksuckers can see the little blue or green whatever dot and feel good about themselves. I'm gonna have that'll be my phone number.
Yeah.
So that'll have my phone, but I'm gonna have no social media on it. And then I'll take my other phone, which is an Android, which takes much better photographs and videos for social media than the iPhone. It totally does. And I'll just have that work on Wi-Fi, so that in order for me to sit down and get the mind of social media, I've got to be on Wi-Fi, and I'll just leave it at home, and that way it'll help me disconnect more from social media, because I think it's horrible for our brains.
Yeah, I think that's what, I mean, look at the last 6 years, man, and the downward. I just saw, I don't know if I was just telling you about like the latest, every day something gets crazier online, right? So I disconnect.
About that, but I believe it.
No, I just disconnect, man. Like I just follow people that are like inspirational. So like when I have my day, like I call it my little inner bitch. You know, every day, every now and then that voice will creep in, man. And that little,
what's he say?
That little devil, like, oh, you know, you know, you hurt too much to go to the gym, man. Let's be a bitch, stay home, chill out. And I'm like, sometimes I'll struggle with it for about 5 minutes. Sometimes it's a couple hours, but I don't let that rule my life, man. I squash that shit. And man, if you go down the rabbit hole on social media, dude, you just start thinking like, this is really the world right now. And I don't know that it is or isn't, man, but there's so much bullshit on there. I just saw this thing, like some woman was on Fox News saying that, this is one I saw yesterday as an example, that math is racist. So 2 + 2 might actually not equal 4. And I was like, wait, I hated freaking math.
Right.
Like,
math is not racist.
Yeah, I don't think
not
math,
racist.
if of all the things that aren't racist, I think math would be probably the least racist subject matter in school, right? Language would be up there. Way more racist than math. I don't know.
That's insanity.
It's just every day there's some drama.
The point of my tirade is just like your choices, and I'm gonna get back to you, your choices and what you're thinking about and the treatments and such. I think it's bad for our brains. I was just on a beautiful ski hill. I'm in northern Arizona. My nephew and I and a good friend of ours, Yoni, are skiing. And of course we're taking pictures and we're having fun. But like we're grabbing a beer. You know, you've probably been on a ski hill before or something like that. People are coming down, they take their helmets off, you know, it's sunny, and even though you're in the snow, you down to your t-shirt, you're drinking a nice freaking pint of beer out there. You're in the mountains, the sun's gorgeous, and the scenery's amazing. And then everybody's like this. And I'm like this, a little glass thing is cooler than this. Like that's bondage. That is freaking bondage.
Man. Well, I noticed it probably about 10 years ago, man, before it wasn't crazy as it is now, like 10 years ago, but it was starting. But at first place I noticed it was an airport. I remember sitting around, and remember 15, 20 years ago, traveling, everybody would communicate, like, hey man, where you going, dude?
Yeah.
You go to the bar,
What's Warriors,
oh yeah, that's cool.
What's sausage tacticians?
Nobody, sausage, okay, shout out. People just don't communicate directly. And think about the kids growing up now, like Snapchat and all the stuff, the way they communicate is so foreign to like real life. So people are getting disconnected from one another. And just like an online troll might say stuff to you, they would never say to your face.
Right.
It's starting to get so crazy that I think people, they don't understand there's real world repercussions for talking shit to somebody's face.
Sure.
And you talk to some old school guys like that, you're gonna get tuned up, man.
I got a good Dave Harrington story. Perfect Dave Harrington story. So Dave is on the phone with me. Dave loves AC/DC. Dave's gonna hear this and he's gonna get pissed because I'm telling the story. So there's a guy in the kitchen and I'm just busting Dave's chops just because it's so easy to take him from 0 to 900. And I'm like, hey, I'm not alone. Chris is in the kitchen with me or whatever. And he's like, all right, cool, man. And I'm like, hey, by the way, this dude hates AC/DC. I just, stupid thing. Oh. And I just thought he'd be like, cool, this guy sucks. We could not go forward. He put this dude on the phone. And I mean, it was like you thought
Did you put him on the phone?
Well, it's speakerphone. And he's like, who is this guy? I'm like, it's Dave Harrington. He's like, wait, Dave Harrington? And I'm like, yeah, Dave Harrington. He's like, me involved in this fitness. I mean, he was like ready. Like he was like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "We're in Chicago."
Drop me a pin, brother.
Pretty much. I mean, it literally took me 10 minutes to talk him down, and that's a perfect example. Like you got no idea, and I'm like, "Bro, first of all, I said it. He didn't say anything." And I go, AC/DC, and then I like ramp it back up, and I go, "And they do suck. I love AC/DC." And he's like, "What?"
You just keep.
But I'm like
twisting that knife, man.
It's okay if somebody doesn't like the band you like, but yeah, you have no idea. Somebody will kill you or something.
Yeah, it's crazy freaking times, man. Like every day I turn on, like I stay away from the news. I got rid of everything. I watch YouTube because the algorithms pick up whatever I like, And sure, I don't get to branch out as much, but I don't want to branch so far out into the crazy world. I'm trying to stay in like the zone, the zone of happiness.
Drew and I were talking to you about politics, and it was like 2010, 11, 12 that I totally stopped listening to all news. I mean, from time to time, I might like check a headline out, but it's not habitual. Like I've got a good friend, Doc. If you hear this, it's you, Doc, who gets out of bed, goes to bed with Fox News on, wakes up, can't sleep. 3 a.m. gets up, has some water, turns on Fox News.
You got to unplug,
like
man.
5:30. It's bad for your freaking brain.
You know what's good for you? Being on the ski slopes, disconnected, and actually enjoying the moment.
Right.
And that's the problem, man. You lose the forest for the trees when you're trying to record everything all the time. You're always focused about trying to capture something, but you don't even experience it. You know what I mean?
We all talk about it too. The fireworks show. We've got a beautiful fireworks show in our town here, and you go to next time you're at a fireworks show, do this. Just look around the crowd as the fireworks are going off, or a concert. And what do you see? You see the fireworks through the screens of people, like you're recording explosions in the sky and you're viewing it through a 4-inch piece of glass when you could just go like that and watch it with your own 2 eyes.
Listen, bro, I just hope the metaverse doesn't take off, man. Because I know Mark Zuckerberg has put all his chips in the metaverse and shit, and that's already getting crazy with Oculus.
AI stuff is crazy.
I've never even looked at it, never will, man, because I don't want to live next to, you're going to be at an airport and everyone's going to have headsets and VR on. And you're going to be looking around. The airport, they're going to be walking on the walls and shit.
The VR.
Douche.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. There's literally...
Why would you want to live?
There's top computer scientists begging for there to be a moratorium for 6 months on this AI stuff because they know that it's going to, or has the potential to get out of control.
Yeah.
Like super quick. Drew, what do you think about all the AI shit?
I think that's a marketing thing.
You think that it's
I think it's bullshit.
You think that it's bullshit that it'll get out of control?
Yeah. I don't think the Terminator scenario is going to come anytime soon.
All right, well, I like that.
Skynet is real, dude. You know? Skynet's real.
I believe it. So wait, where were we? Where we were was your foundation, the work that you're doing. My brother just interviewed a dear friend of ours, Derek Balboa. So if you guys want to check this out, my brother on YouTube is Tommy Shook, same last name. Derek Balboa just finished 20-something years. Started out his career sniper, ran as an instructor down at Benning for a while, that program. And, you know, lifelong grunt. I think he's an E8 now, maybe an E9. I'm sorry, Derek, I don't remember. But he battled what you're talking about for years and buried it 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 because he didn't want to get kicked out or ostracized or lose support of his men or, you know, just have a negative outcome for his career. And now he's everything you're talking about. I mean, he broke down in the interview and basically stated, like, I don't want to hear the Star Spangled Banner. I don't want to hear taps. I can't look at a flag flying in the breeze. I can't frickin' go to a, you know, just like anything causes very bad situation for him to exist. And it's, I think to your point, like it festered so long that the building blocks got built up. Is it bothering you for me to talk about it, or are you cold? You want my jacket?
No, dude, what's Chicago? I left Atlanta this morning. I was like, it's warm out. I come and I see people wearing...
You want your...
No, we're good.
You want a hug?
No, oh man, hugs not drugs. No, there's so many. I think there was 5 SEALs last week that committed suicide.
Yeah, is it like
daily? He got shot 27 times.
Yeah.
And then he ended up taking his own life, was pretty out there for the community. I had a couple friends that called me, and every time somebody does that, it impacts. So it's so many other people, man. You leave people with the wake and discontent of like, what could have I done to help my brother? You know what I mean? Like, if you know somebody who commits suicide, it f***s you up, it f***s the families up. Like, so there's so much devastation when these guys, especially when you lose those types of numbers in a small community, it just rocks dudes, man. And I just want to encourage guys to get out in front of it, because I always reference the Paddy Pimblett, the UFC fighter. I think it was late last year, he had a fight. It was all emotional. And I've talked about this before because he just went through a brutal weight cut and he found out one of his best friends had committed suicide during a weight cut, and you know the deal there. And then so he goes into the fight, and afterwards, there was no bullshit, no fabricated pre-planning. It was just raw, somebody being authentic and real. He was like, he's like, if I could talk to everyone out there, he starts talking about, like, talk to someone, talk to anybody. He's like, I'd rather be crying on my shoulder than me going to his funeral a week from now, And it was just so raw and authentic. And I thought that was one of the coolest PSAs or public service announcements you could do, because there's so many people that are struggling right now. Like I told you, like the 22 a day statistic, I think is total bullshit. I think it's
way more.
I think it's probably at least 80, 40 to 80. It's way higher than what's.
And then that is the word successful is not a good word, but that's where there's an outcome of death. There are people then that are also
on the brink
or committing slow suicide through abuse of substances or just complete disconnect from life, where their bodies are wasting away, and so it's not the acute
or they're damaging their relationships. Their careers are being impacted because they just haven't found the strength. They're not strong enough to reach out for help. But I'm like, just talk to somebody, man. Like, talk to a professional and get started and just put the work in. I want people to reach out to our foundations that are willing to commit to the work. Like, I don't care how you are. All you got to do is pick the phone up and reach out, and then we'll get you pointed in the right direction. And it'll be a process, but once you get past it, you can get back to your, actually getting enjoyment out of life. Like, and that's one of the things. I got a phone call at 11 o'clock at night one day from a buddy. At first it was a text. He goes, "Hey bro, how you doing?" And I take edibles at night, so to help me sleep.
Workout cookies or?
Usually just like little gummies, and I don't like taking them, but I can't smoke because of my lungs. I don't want to compromise that. And I tried to curb the drinking because
Wasn't your friend.
It's not a good thing for me. I just still drink socially because it's all about discipline to me. Like I just can't get wasted or drink during the week. I try not to drink. But he calls me, texts me, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing good, dude. How about you? And he's like, not good. I literally picked the phone up and called him, and I went into my closet, for master, because my wife's sleeping. And I'm like, bro, I'm so right now. And he starts laughing, I was like, oh, that's And I said, how are you doing, man? And he's like, man, I don't get any enjoyment out of anything, man. I got two beautiful, kids are great, I'm successful, got good things going on, professionally, but I just feel numb to shit. And I said, yeah. And I sat on in my closet for 4 hours talking to this dude. And I'm like, where are you? He's like, I'm home. I'm going to sleep on my trampoline with my daughter tonight, under the stars. I'm like, okay, good. So I finally felt comfortable. And he's putting the work in. This guy's putting the work in. And I never knew he was suicidal until I started doing this stuff and putting myself out there. And I don't want to be like the poster child for PTS or anything like that, but if it's what I got to do to help and serve the community, I don't care, man. I have no ego, and I just want dudes to get better because it kills me to see these suicides, man. I've experienced it with my friends, lost a lot of friends to suicide, almost more than combat, and it's just crazy. You're talking 22 a day since 9/11, you're talking 150 to 170,000 suicides.
So there's some people that say that's all bullshit and that there's not that many.
Oh, they're 100%.
I know.
100%.
So it's like a weird thing that people would even challenge that, but they feel like, I don't know what the motivation is, why you'd have that motivation, but I think it goes both.
It's high, man.
Yeah.
It's documented 36,000 active duty global war on terror veterans, veterans of the global war on terror since 9/11 have committed suicide. Mm-hmm. That's not inclusive of previous, generations. Mm-hmm. So if you add it all up, it's astronomical. So first you just got to get the dialogue going. You got to encourage guys hey man, if you're feeling low, call your buddies up, man. Ask for help, man. Just say you're struggling, man. And, guys, I always hate to check your buddy, lines, because sometimes guys don't, it's like you're going to bed and your buddy calls you dude, I got a thing tomorrow at work, you don't give him the time. You don't want to really hear what's going on. But if a dude calls you that you haven't talked to in a while and he sounds off, dig, man, ask questions, dude. Mm-hmm. Ask them what they're thinking, and maybe you can save that dude, from that moment.
And then the next phase.
Get them to the next step, get them one step closer to getting some help, So.
I think it's such a multifaceted problem. This has been talked about by people much smarter than me, but so many years of war versus Vietnam or Korea or World War I or II, the exposure to so many cycles and repetitions of bad things causing that those traumatic experiences like that. And then you couple that to this new world where we're disconnected from each other.
And transitioning. And I wish I could help more with first responders and law enforcement because there's a lot of similarities, There's a lot of similarities when they retire. You're no longer part of the group. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're still part of the community, but you're not, that team is still together when you leave it. They're still operating. They're still doing their thing, whether it's law enforcement or the military or a fire department or whatever. You're exposed to trauma on a crazy scale,
ER nurses, all
kinds ER.
Of people like that, yeah.
I just had to do with focus on a community that I can get in front of, and I can make an impact. I don't have as much contact with law enforcement.
Sure.
And it's a little harder, and it's too big, for me to make a huge impact. So my goal is I want to help hundreds. We already funded yesterday. I just greenlit. I have an amputee friend of mine who just put himself through ketamine treatment, which I'm going to do, which is terrifying in some ways because, but it was super effective for him. Like it made day and night differences. From when he started ketamine, he did six treatments every other day.
Because of the,
well, you have to be cool with losing control. Like you're tripping balls,
right.
You're in the spirit world, with Chavez.
Does not sound exciting to me.
No.
Yeah.
And you're reliving.
Man, where are we?
You're not in control of the situation. So if you're a control freak, you're probably not going to enjoy that part. But everybody has different experiences. But the similarities is like you kind of rehash a bunch of stuff really quick in like a day. It's like the ghost of Christmas past, all the bad shit you did is just rolling. But then, when you finish, some guys are having these really good, miraculous turnarounds, with substance abuse, PTS, depression, and there's all these different modalities, but unfortunately there's not a one size fits all. So like what works for me might not work for you because of your life experiences, because your chemistry,
Sure.
what your willingness to do shit. Like I'm willing to try anything. And if it works, I'll talk about it. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to rep it, But what works, but I also understand what doesn't work for me might work for someone else. Like I'm looking in the plant-based, like there's ayahuasca, psilocybin, of course, like we mentioned, ketamine. There's a stellar ganglion block. All these different.
I interviewed a guy that was the chief surgeon. I'll have to look this up. He was a chief surgeon for Boeing Corporation. I think he was Air Force. He was a surgeon in the Air Force or the Navy before that in his military career. Anyway, they created a device that does some kind of, the way my non-doctor brain kind of interpreted it was like a TEMS machine for your brain, basically. Not like shock treatments, but basically, and there's a bunch of studies on it. It's like, and it was meant for PTSD and for the damage to the brain from it. Supposed to be a very promising technology. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, a little bit.
I've also that podcast, Drew?
Yeah, I remember it.
What the heck was his name?
Ooh, I have to look it up.
You have to look that up.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. There's all these different treatment modalities, but some guys want a quick fix. Like my buddy wasn't ready to do like a 42-day treatment at like, say, a warrior's heart because he wasn't ready for that. That's a big step. That's a huge commitment. You're just taking off for 42 days.
Not to mention you're deciding to abstain.
Yeah, the alcohol was probably the number one. He's like, I don't want to give it up, Right. So what's a quick fix? So doing ketamine treatment, it's a drug, but that had a profound impact. Now he's, engaging with his mother, for instance. And I was like, he hadn't been talking he loves his mom. And he used to get together every Thursday with her. He's real close to her. And he's, just isolated all the time. And he was doing heroin, crack, all these different, name a drug. Did it illegally just to kind of mask all this stuff. And now he went through this ketamine treatment and he's significantly improved. Now I'm like, what's the next thing? He's like, you know anything about the stellar ganglion block? They basically stick a needle in your neck, sometimes one side, sometimes two sides, sometimes I think three. And I'm like, yeah, I know a thing or two about it. I know the people at Stella that are doing really good work. And he wanted to go, but he couldn't afford to do it. And I was like, a foundation will take care of it, man. We're not even up and running, but we'll kick you out there,
That's cool.
Let's go. And then once you get past that, then we can kind of go to the next thing. Because he doesn't want to do talk therapy. He doesn't want to do like a warrior's heart right now. But I want to kind of soften him up a little bit. And then he'll be more likely to keep continuing on treatment, until he's good. So each one's progressing, but I want to, preservation of life. I want to save guys' lives that are kind of have suicidal ideation. Let's save them, optimize them, and then return them as whole as possible back into society, So like that's kind of like the phased approach. And eventually, we'll reward them for the work that they put in, send them on a hunting trip they might not be able to afford when they're stable and all that. Let's punch them out, maybe a retreat for them and their spouse, because, it's not easy living with somebody that's always got anger issues or things like that. So the spouses have to put up with that. So when they get better, it's like, let's reward them by, working on their marriage and, you know, working on their relationships and all that stuff, all the hard work you put in, you know.
I like it.
Dig it.
Two things. One, we got to hear the Dave Harrington Greery story because I told him we would. So you guys are deployed. You're on an operation in some country in North Africa somewhere.
Yep.
You've got a witch doctor of sorts, some type of...
There's witch doctors, dead goats,
Yeah.
and Super Dave Harrington. It's gonna, you know, there's a story there, right?
You guys are with some village people.
Yeah, not the village people. Village people. Yeah. Yeah, man. So like I was again, like I think that might have been my first, or it was either my first or second trip with Dave, and you know, I'm the junior NCO, the young weapons sergeant guy, freaking new guy. We go on this deployment, and we're in the middle of nowhere. Like it was, I think that was N'Djamena, which is in Chad, like just south of Libya, like northern part of Africa.
Okay.
Sub-Sahara desert, hot as everything, you know, everything that can go wrong there kind of can and will do. So we're on this deployment, and I see all these some of our students were wearing these like leather bands around their arms, you know, around their biceps, and I'm like, what's that? And they're like, and everybody had a different thing. So some of our students were like, well, this is anti-knife. So if someone tries to stab me, the blade won't pierce my skin. The blade will bend. I was like,
They've got like magic chalices on them.
yeah, man. So I'm like, okay, explain more. And they're like, well, basically, you know, what we do is we get these blessed by like a shaman or a witch doctor, essentially. I don't know what their term was for it.
Don't take any offense if you're a witch doctor or using the wrong
Love
witch
you
doctor
guys.
term.
Shout out to witch doctors across the world. You guys are doing great things. But yeah, man, like they had this, and I was kind of fascinated because I was like, man, if I'm going to bring something home from Africa, it's going to be some shit that, you know,
Protects me.
yeah, like superhero
Want
shit.
a big dick, get rich one.
Yeah, they didn't have that. Yeah, that's my first question.
We're sold out.
But this one dude had one with like, you know, say it was an AK round and it was bound in leather, and he's like, it was blessed off. So if someone tries to shoot me, the rounds will not penetrate my skin. I was like, well, that sounds dope. Can I try it out on you? And they're like, well. I said, well, how do you know it works? They're like, well, what we do is we tie it around like an animal. And then if we try to stab it, the knife will bend. And I'm like, all right, I want to see this. Like, how do I get one of these? So, and Dave and I were together on this, and you know, we said, we got to see this shit, man. So like, I want one. So the dude's like, all right, we'll talk to a local witch doctor. We're going to get this thing blessed. They're going to come back, and we're going to get a goat, and we're going to test this thing out. And I said, all right. So I shit you not, the dude comes back, and I could clearly see a master lock. It was like a master lock bound in leather, right? So I was like, that looks like a master lock, dude.
Sounds like something like a hipster would do.
You know?
To like repurpose and sell something, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, oh yeah. So I was like, all right, well, every day we would feed our students goats. I hate goat because of this. I still won't eat goats and sheep.
For the listener viewers, your students, Green Beret's job is to teach and pass on skills and knowledge in foreign land. So you guys are there teaching.
Yeah, and I think we were doing small unit tactics, you know, raids, ambushes.
It's your responsibility to feed these people?
Yeah, the students would fall asleep all the time, right? Because they only ate once a day, typically. And for lunch, we had some Arabs, some Christians, and we just had a diverse group of, you know, some were very tribal, and they had different ways that they would allow you to, you know, to prepare the meat. Mm-hmm. So some of the Arab students, they'd have to slit the throat and bleed out the animal based on
Muslim,
right, and then others they didn't care. So we're like, well, we're gonna feed the goat to the students anyway, so let's try this thing out. So we get our Humvee, man. We put a goat in the back. Dave's driving. We have our interpreter. We have a witch doctor in the Humvee, right? Because that's sanctioned. And we're driving to where we can go do the shot. You know, we want to test this thing out because bullets.
Your tax dollars hard at work.
Yeah, I could say that now. So statute of limitations. So we drive out to this like area, like on the range, and which is pretty much all of the whole country was like a range. It was just flat with nothing there. And we get the goat out of the Humvee, and I'm looking at the goat, and the witch doctor ties this thing around this neck. And in my head, I'm not a big believer in you know, I want to believe in aliens and Bigfoot, but I just haven't seen it. I got to see it to believe it. So we get the goat out, and Dave's, you know, getting ready. Super Dave's, you know, and he's a crack pistol shot. I think at the time he was sponsored by Beretta back in the day, and he never misses, you know. So we get the goat, slap it. I think Dave slapped it on the ass. The goat's running with this thing around its neck. It's basically a master padlock with leather. Thing's running, and you know, maybe it's 20 yards or something. And Dave pulls his gun, takes a shot, pow, and I see the goat didn't drop. It just keeps running. And I'm like, I looked at Dave, and Dave looked at me, and then he goes, he takes the second shot, and the thing falls right over. I'm like, hey, your greenery don't work. Do I got to pay for this? So that was a greenery story, man. I was like, we just put it to the test. And the first shot, though, for a second, I looked at Dave. I was like, yo, did you try to shoot that thing, man? Because it was running, and it was, you know, it was a far shot at the time, but he never misses. And I was like, are you me? But yeah, dude, I think he still has that too. I don't reckon. Yeah, I think he still has it because we hung it around our Humvee, like the rear view mirror. We had that thing up. See this thing. I know. I feel like I should get half of it. You know.
You guys bust it up. Yeah, you might need it right now.
Maybe it's anti-titanium. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, let's go back to that story. So, what do you got? This whole group of guys that the third of these dudes getting sick. Is there any kind of commonality that you guys have been able to find? I know I kind of asked you that a minute ago. Is anybody digging into it?
Yeah, there's a group, this awesome foundation called Hunter 7 Foundation. They're a 501c3, I believe. Don't hold me to that, but I believe they're a nonprofit. But they do great shit for veterans that are getting sick. So they post a lot of statistics, especially shooting stuff. You should check it out just because you're involved in the shooting world, like about shooting indoors, like all the environmental concerns that can have an impact. So things to be considerate of. But groups like that, they do a lot for, you know, if veterans, like if I couldn't afford my medical bills, they would potentially help me out. Or they dig into like a lot of the studies of like what's going on with the commonality. It could be like cancers, like colon cancer, like is 50%, you're 50% more likely to get colon cancer if you're just in the military at all than a civilian. And so there's all these weird statistics.
Is it from shitty food?
It's probably from the chow hall, eating that, you know, corned beef and rash, you know, or something like that. But yeah, there's all these there's groups like that are kind of pulling together statistics and helping veterans that are sick, but they're also advocates. They're trying to get the word out there, like, hey guys, like stay on top, get a colonoscopy, dude. Get it, you know, if you're 40, make sure you get one, or you're 50. So they just trying to get guys to stay on top of their stuff. And if they do get sick, they help out. So there are groups like that out there that are doing good stuff. But yeah, it's beyond a conspiracy theory at this point in my mind. I think there's 3 of us that I'm aware of that are sick that haven't died. I think everybody who's gotten sick from my particular group ended up succumbing to whatever.
Wow.
You know, so I know there's a PJ friend of mine. He just got diagnosed with cancer, stage 4. He's a stuntman in Hollywood, had a storied career as a PJ, then he was working GRS as well. And I was like, dang, I just found out about that 6 months ago. And then I have another friend of mine that's had a host of heavy metal poisoning and stuff like that, and he's, you know, a combat controller friend of mine. So it's pretty common, man. At least in the group. So I just try to tell people, like, look, if you're in Iraq 03, 04, you spend a considerable amount of time there, just stay on top of your health, man. Get checked. Because if I found this is a slow grower. Like, that's why I think it's tied to this. You can have it for 10 years before it really gets to this point. It's just a slow grower in the bones, but when it goes to your lungs, it blows up, you know? Like, I could be sitting here this month, and next week I get a pelvis, abdomen, and chest CT and MRI to see if it's come back. Like, well, it's there, whether it's grown or spread. And if it does, I got to make a decision. Do I do another surgery, remove more of my lung, or do I just die. That's your options, because chemo doesn't work, radiation doesn't work. It's either cut it out or die. Like, that's where I'm parked. So it leaves me with, it's not the best decisions, because for me, I want that quality, So it's all dependent on, like, if it's one more spot like what I just did, I'll do another one, but that'll probably be it. And it just depends on the scenarios. I just have to roll with it. Roll with it as it comes, But it's stuff like that when there's no alternatives. But I'm just throwing everything at my health right now. Like, I'm working on a lot of things mentally. Like, even to prepare for these, doing a quick podcast. For normal people, it's cool, there's no big deal. But for me, I always have a lot of anxiety. So I'm trying to work on, like, breathing techniques to calm yourself down, so you're more like in a flow state than they call it coherence.
Do you feel anxiety now?
I always do. It's 24/7, like 365. But it's manageable now because I put so much work into everything, And I'm getting to the point where it's like, I can talk in front. I want to be able to address, especially with the foundation, doing fundraising events, being in front of a couple hundred people.
Sure.
Because I want to I really want to do the best job I can possible with what I've got to help the other guys in the community, guys, gals. And the only way I know how to do that is just the grind. Like, I work 7 days a week right now. I'm not getting paid anything. It's because I feel a fire under my ass, like, because of my health. I don't know what time I have left. I could have a month, 2 months, 2 years, 5 years.
20 years.
20 years? Maybe 20 years. But I don't even go there mentally.
Why do you not think that you could live that long?
Well, it's funny, like last week, to put it in, keeps things in context, I met this gal at the gym. Her name's Megan. And we were at the same gym, and she was an amputee. So I was like, I'm going to be that guy. Like, hey, what got you? A shark? That guy. And I have a lot of amputee friends, so I just went out and talked to her. And she's like, so what happened? Can I ask what happened to your leg? Because she was gorgeous, young, bright, full of life, And she's like, I actually had bone cancer. And I was like, well, I got bone cancer. Can we be friends? And I said, we had it in the same leg, but she was a grade 2, or 2, slightly over a grade 2, and I was a grade 3. Found out she had the same surgeon, same cancer, same leg.
Wow.
And they ended up amputating her. She got MRSA, I got MRSA, but she lost her leg, I didn't. And she started working out like a fiend, and I tried to call her last week. I shot her a text. I said, let's get together for lunch, because it's been 2 months since I talked to her, because I can't keep up anymore. I've been real busy with the foundation and all the, going to health doctor appointments and all this. And my text came back. Then I went to her Instagram page, and she had like 12,000 followers, and now it's down to 4. I was like, oh man, this is bad. So I hit my wife. I said, driving to the gym to go work out while I'm doing this. I said, hey, can you just like hit her up on Facebook and tell her I'm trying to get a hold of her. I want to do lunch. I get to the gym and I Google her name and just get her obituary, dude. And I just talked to her 2 months ago. And she didn't have, I'm like stage 4. She wasn't stage 4. She had 2 or 3 nodules, and I think she just let it go. Like, there's nothing to do.
What is the kind of cancer?
It's called chondrosarcoma. So what I have is, a sarcoma is less than 1% of all cancers. I have a subset of that's less than 1% of 1% of all cancers. So it's like maybe 1,000 to 2,000 people a year are diagnosed with this kind of cancer.
Wow.
So it's super rare. And
not to keep bringing it up, is this the same thing that was diagnosed in some of your buddies?
Well, my buddy that just got diagnosed with leukemia, they originally said he had liposarcoma, which is super freaking rare. It's the same type, it's another subset of a sarcoma that attacks your fat. He had it in his stomach, and he's a super fit guy. Like, he went out and started doing wind sprints, dude, to get rid of it. It's something I would do, some dumb shit. You're like, I got this pain in my stomach. Let me go run sprints, because that's going to fix it. It's just, we're all wired kind of similarly, some of us. And then he found out, and they're like, yo, you're like stage 4. And he's like, what? He had to get yeah, a bunch of surgeries, and found out it's like leukemia, but it's impacted his organs and all this stuff. He's not in good shape, but no, so nobody else that I'm aware of, because it's rare, but everybody else has gotten weird, rare stuff, you know, like buried a SEAL friend of mine that had Lou Gehrig's. That was a shocker. I think we had 4 of them were friends of mine that had Lou Gehrig's, but then like a brain cancer and a pancreatic. So they're, you know, they're all so different, you know. And it's strange that they're not all similar, you know, like everybody gets one kind of cancer, but yeah, I don't know enough about that.
How old are you?
49.
So
going on 100, like a vampire.
I'm hoping you do a hundo.
Hey, that's the goal, man.
Hey,
it ain't gonna be for lack of
I know
effort.
You spent a lot of your life being a bitch, kind of running from hard stuff. It's time to stop that and let's shoot for a hundo.
Hey, I'm working on it. Yeah, no, for sure. Like, my goals are, I've already defied the odds. I'm going to continue to do it. Because people look at me when I go into the cancer. I have a tank top I just had made. It has the cancer ribbon for bone cancer. It said, keeping stage 4 sexy. So I walk into the gym, you know, and people are like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, damn it. I'm trying to freak people out, man. I want people to be like, that's rad, you know, because that's kind of my attitude with this. Like, I go into my cancer doctors and everyone has that chemo look because I can't get chemo. So I walk in my tank top, you know, coming out of the gym, like, what's up? What are you in for? It's, oh, stage 3? That's cute. Like, oh, you only got 1 cancer? I got 2. What's up? You know, I'm working on 3, the trifecta. But,
no, you're not.
Nah, it doesn't matter. Like, bring it, man. Like, my goal is to make cancer my little bitch as long as possible. That's my goal. It might win the war at the end of the day. It's not about that. It's how you go through it, right? Like, I want to make it my little bitch. Like, so far, it's not going to get the better of me. Like, mentally, it's not going to my day up. Like, I try not to let it my day up, hardly ever. And when I started doing this stuff for the foundation, that gave me a whole new purpose, man. Like, I got more reasons to drive than ever right now.
Good.
Because every time I get some response of like, hey, bro, you know, I needed that kick in the ass today. Because when I start feeling sorry for myself, man, like, you know, like I said, the inner bitch starts creeping in. I'll jump on my Instagram page and I follow a Brit, for instance, this guy, Mark, I don't forget how to pronounce his last name. He's missing both legs, fairly high up, and an arm. And he's a purple belt. He just got his purple belt in jiu-jitsu with 1 arm, dude.
Cool.
And,
I mean, it's not cool.
Well, but you know what I'm
cool.
saying? Like, he just set a world record for a swim with 1 arm, dude. And,
wow.
Yeah, it was like, he set that last year. He just setting goals, man. And you think that doesn't have a bad day? Like, he has 2 daughters, still married to his wife, like all that stuff you go through in your head. But it inspires guys like me. And, like, I'm trying to inspire other people, but that little bitch, I'm like, hey, you don't have it that bad. I got all my still got my leg. That's pretty dope. I can do a lot of cool shit. So I tell people, don't focus from a mental perspective. If you're into working out and things like that, you can't fixate on the things you can't do. Focus on the things you can do. Because ultimately, you can always do something, man, and keep progressing that 1% a day. You want to improve 1% a day. Be a better husband, be a better father, be a better role model to society. And I try to work on that. I put 3 hours into my body a day and my mind, you know, and it's time consuming. I don't have time for this. I got a business to run, fundraisers to plan, people to help. I got a family to take care of. You know, I got to be there mentally for my wife and our kid. But I have to do these things because if I don't put the work in, I'll fall apart. And I'm not going to let that happen. I'm just going to keep getting it. And I want other people to start getting after it, man. Like, these dudes that are just, you got to start somewhere, and it seems like it's kind of like these little pebbles you got to go over to get to the mountaintop. You just got to focus on those little small steps. Don't look at the whole big plan, and you'll get there, you know? Because I haven't had suicidal ideation or been depressed in like 9 months. And a lot of it's me talking openly about a lot of the situations.
Offloading it.
You know, it's just, And Tom Spooner at Warrior's Heart, storied career, legend of a guy, and he's just a phenomenal human being. He shared this, and hopefully I don't violate his trust on this, because they had Warrior's Heart. They have this circle, and by it there's like the Native American burial ground that there was archaeological dig, and they went and closed it back up out of respect for the Native Americans. And basically when they sit in the circle, man, like he was talking about the warriors, man, back in the day, their glass would be 3/4 full, as Tom would explain it to me. And that would be like things build up, you know, over time. Maybe they just came back from a battle. And the elders would encourage the young warriors to talk to the tribe and open up about their experiences, not to beat their chest, but just to explain to them. And some of these people would never be warriors, so their glass is empty. And they would just pour a little bit into each of the tribe's glass by communicating with them. And, you know, he told me, he shared this story with me, and he actually put it to the test, and that's not my story to tell. But the story that he told me was just really profound. And I was like, man, that's some deep shit. And it's true, you know, if you bottle your shit up and you never talk about it, then eventually your glass is the weight's gonna weigh you down.
It's gonna overflow.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And they do some amazing shit out there with, you know, struggling veterans, you know, and there's so many there's all this at your disposal. It's just, you just gotta ask for it. I never Googled anything. I never reached out for help in all, like 12 years. And I can't understand why. I just thought I could figure it out. Mm-hmm. I'd work out harder, focus on my nutrition, meditate. Just didn't work. And self-medicating is not the way to go. And I tell guys, I'm like, if you're depressed and you're suicidal, you have that ideation, you can't drink, dude. It's literally, it's like pouring fuel on the fire.
Right.
So I'm like, find other outs, man. Like, but drinking is, you know, speaking from personal experience, is one of the worst things you can possibly do.
Yeah, it's a depressant and just makes it worse.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you came and spent the time, man. You traveled a long way to share this story. We usually ask folks quite simply, parting words. If the people that have been listening to you never see you, never hear from you, unfortunately, if you died tomorrow, what would you leave them with?
Well, I want to leave everybody with, you know, the legacy for me is going to be helping other people. And of course, the foundation, you know, Brothers Keeper Veteran Foundation that I'm standing up is going to help people for years to come. That's my goal. And if people want to help us out, they can come to the website, you can donate, you can get involved in one of our fundraisers. You can hold a fundraiser in your town, or you can simply just come out and hang out with some of the people, you know. But it doesn't matter just about my needs and wants as far as like helping other people. I encourage other people now. You know, I feel like that's what the country needs right now. Is I wanted to pick something that nobody could disagree with all the division in the country, the left and the right and all this bullshit. I want people to be unified. Mm-hmm. And like go out and be involved in your community, actually talk to people and take care, you know, being like, go talk to your neighbor, you know, get more involved in your communities and stay in touch with your friends and have real communication, you know, and start your own thing. Like, you know, it's kind of like, I think everybody should be donating a bit of their time, money, and effort into helping others, because it's the biggest reward that I've ever had. I never thought I'd end up in nonprofit work, you know, ever. And like I said, just certainly not doing it for the money. I just, it makes me feel like at the end of the day, I can rest easy, because this is, I think I can help a lot of folks, and hopefully I can prevent them from having the same drama that I went through, because it's rough. It's rough to be in that mind state, you know. So.
I like it.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me out here, and the weather sucks, but you know, I appreciate you having out here. Chicago, a little chilly.
Bring May flowers. You guys that viewed this, if you dug it, share it, hook up with them online. What's your Instagram?
My personal Instagram is Chris_Cathers. Our foundation is bkvf.org.
Any other social media that people would All the same.
Easiest way is go to bkvf.org. Go to our website. All our socials are on there, and give us a follow because we're trying to branch out. The more that you guys follow and share, the more likely it's going to end up in somebody who needs its hand, and then we can actually make a difference and help those guys or gals. Yeah.
Be well. Don't be dickheads. Tell somebody you love them. Visit our website, CarryTrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., CarryTrainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@CarryTrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@CarryTrainer.com or CarryTrainer.com.
I said I got me some gunfighter gun law. Gunfighter gun law, baby. Gunfighter gun law, no more gunfighter blues. Made in the USA, amazing lubricity, 100% synthetic, baby. So it's gonna last you longer. So go on CarryTrainer.com and order yourself some gunfighter gun or gunfighter lube to get rid of your gunfighter blues. I said go on and order yourself some gunfighter lube. Gunfighter lube. Yeah!